my name is Barra McArory. I'm Strategic Director of Place for Bristol. The background, the everyday, is as important as the foreground in the city. It is not about grand projet for me, it's about a great city. So I need the overall quality of all architecture to come up. You want some fantastic jewels in any place, in any city, and you might have 10 great things in any neighbourhood, but the day-to-day needs to be great, and it's really important that a project is honest. It is very clear about the risk that we have to embrace. It is very clear about cost. Far too many projects go into cost overrun. We haven't got surety, and you lose that view of professionalism. There's a lot of communities that feel that development is a threat rather than a benefit. So in the first instance it sees this is a threat. How do we defend ourselves from that? So, but actually development is very positive. You know, you increase footfall, you increase local services because of that footfall, etc. So the architect, in walking through that community development role, is a very, very important role. And I think that there's two clients. The architect has the client who pays them, and then there's the silent client, which is the place in which they're working.
My name's Nick Watson. I'm a Senior Regeneration Manager. I work for Croydon Council in our Housing Development and Regeneration team. We're constantly looking for sites where we can put new housing, new schools, improving public realm, and it's really important to us that the quality of that design and the way people interact with that design is good, not just on day one, but is good in 20, 30 years' time as well, to give us the flexibility and the environment that in short people want to come to Croydon, you know, in the long term. For us, it's about developing relationships with those ranges of architects, gaining a level of trust in both ways so that we can be assured of the right response. That transmits itself in terms of how we engage with the local community as well. You know, we'll have confidence to share some of the designs, have an honest, open engagement process with our community, and we have a hugely diverse community in Croydon. And equally, when it comes to private developers as well, you know, we as a borough have to recognise there's a commercial viability about what they're trying to achieve. We have to marry that with both our aspirations as a borough for the quality of design and the right architects to bring those two key issues together. Come and visit us, because I'm sure once you've been here, you'll think, yeah, I want to get involved.
My name's Ruth Angel, and I'm the head of a small team, which is the Housing Regeneration team for Kensington and Chelsea. We want to achieve a better balance, I think, probably, because many of the internals of the homes in the traditional 1960s, 70s blocks are actually very nice. It's the external environment, so we'd want to certainly maintain a lot of the standards, particularly the space standards, but we want the external environment to be of a much higher quality, and I think of a more of a human scale. If I had one message to give to the architectural profession with regard to designing affordable housing, it would be that we need your creative thinking and we need you to maximise the possibilities of every single site.
My name is Laura Johnson, and I'm the Director of Housing for the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea. We are predominantly flats. In social housing terms, 96% of the borough is flatted, and I think for the general needs stock it's around 86%. I think you can particularly look at some of the estates which were built following slum clearance or bomb damage, and they completely changed the way the street pattern looked and how the area functioned. And I know when looking at our estates again, something working with the planning department and architects who've come in to master plan with us is trying to bring back some of that street pattern again, because it brings a connectivity to the area which has been taken out, and it means people don't function in those estates in a way that they would in a normal street pattern. We've got some great examples of where architects have come out. It's not necessarily been in the schedule that said we'll do 3 tenant consultation events and then we'll go away, but the great ones come out again and again. They price their brief accordingly to know that actually the 3 in the brief will probably turn into 6. And they understand that actually what will make their development get through planning, what will raise less objections, what will make the housing department work with them better and make probably a better scheme that we price when we contract with the developer, is one that has absolutely everybody's buy-in, from the politicians to Mr. Smith, who lives in that flat and can really understand that it will make a better home for him in the long run.
I'm Councillor Ruth Rose now, Cabinet Member for Regeneration, Transport and Planning at Stoke-on-Trent City Council. If we're looking at architects and architecture, what the council sees is a partnership, and we see that as a really important partnership, and I think it's important because it's about taking a vision forward. It's about working with us as a client and our communities, and it's about shaping our city. In Stoke, when we're looking at new builds and new facilities, we want to take a mixture of both new builds and protection of our heritage. We're incredibly proud of our heritage, but we know that we have to have end use. And that sometimes means that we have to be really creative. And that's where our architects and design teams come in, because it's about what they can provide from what we may already have existing. For me, architects giving their greatest value is sitting around a table before we start to even look at the design. It's about knowing what our city wants, and that means our communities as well, because we've all got to have ownership.
My name is John Betty. I'm the Interim Director of Place at Stoke-on-Trent City Council. Stoke-on-Trent, as many other cities, has got a very strong heritage past. That heritage past manifests itself in obviously churches, museums, civic buildings, but also a huge number of post-industrial, or now relics really, dereliction. And it's very interesting to note that up until now, I think a lot of that has been seen as negative, a cost, a drag. Actually, with a lot of work being done with the Urban Lands Institute, being done with the RIBA, being done with architects locally and nationally and through English Heritage, we have actually realised that we've got value here. We've got value that can be brought into use. Architecture is going to have to respond to the functions and the uses and the reasons why people want buildings, rather than be telling people why they need a building of a particular type. Expert as you are in the built environment, expert you are in the provision of buildings, then we are both, as client and architect, challenged with being empathetic, sympathetic and in tune with our users, our residents and our owners and occupiers. And I think therefore emphasis upon people, their wishes, their hopes, their aspirations is where the profession needs to go.
I'm Nick MacDonald. I'm a City Councillor at Nottingham City. I'm the portfolio holder for Jobs and Growth here. If you look at the history of development in the city, we've had periods where there hasn't been much happening. Obviously during recessions you don't get so much activity, and we've had periods where we've had lots of activity and frankly some poor architecture in the past. There are lots of, Nottingham has got some fabulous buildings and some fabulous landscapes, but it also has very visibly within the city the legacy of some poor decisions in terms of architecture and planning. So there's a real responsibility on us all as we enter into a new period of regeneration to make sure that doesn't happen again. The next few years are going to be, certainly in Nottingham, a real period of activity. So there's a massive opportunity for us to build great buildings and create great architecture. So join with us in that, and let's work together, but let's see some great designs and some really iconic architecture, because we could really transform Nottingham if we get it right.
I'm David Bishop. I'm the Corporate Director of Development and Growth, Nottingham City Council. How the architecture of this new place essentially captures the ethos of the new place and is sort of emblematic of the city we are in the 21st century, Nottingham. At the moment, the opportunity is there to really transform some of our city landscapes. Coming out of the recession, defining ourselves for the 21st century, new economies, new places, and your thinking and talent can unlock some of the ways of doing that. We need you to work with us, we need you to be bold, but we need you to be consistent in your advice and pragmatic, because we have to operate within parameters of aspiration, yes, but cost, viability, community support, regulatory endorsement. And if those parameters are all brought together and you can work with us through that, I think there's a great period actually for architects in helping shape some of the cities of the great cities of the 21st century.